There are two groups of people. The first group go, oh no, I'm too scared. And the second, I'm scared, but fuck it, I'm going to do it anyway. So we all have fear, but we have a choice. Shall I give up? Or shall I feel the fear and just keep going?
I don't let the negative voice in my head that you can't do it, who the hell do you think you are, stop me. And I call that radical confidence.
Hey everyone, so this is Marisa here, and I'm here interviewing someone that I just adore, Lisa Bilyeu. I met her in Porta Velata about 5 years ago, and you told me your love story.
I did.
And I never forgot it, and we've been friends and colleagues ever since. And Lisa has written this book, Radical Confidence. I want to hear so much about it. As a therapist, I know that the biggest problem people have is they don't have confidence. They don't know what it is, what it looks like, or where to get it. So I want to start with the beginning. What made you pick that title? What made you write a book on confidence first?
I love that. So I'm just so happy to be here with you. I've interviewed you so many times. This is such a pleasure for me. Someone reached out to me, a literary agent, said, hey, are you interested in writing the book? The very first thing, now this was a year ago. So at that point, I've already built a $1 billion company. I've already built Impact Theory with over, 500 million views and pretty confident. And they come to me and they're like, would you want to write a book? The first thing I thought to myself is, who the hell would buy a book from me? And in that moment, my husband just looked at me and he's like, are you joking? And I was like, oh yeah, I just realized that the insecure, negative Lisa comes back. And I was like, she never goes away. She's always there. And so I was like, it's interesting because the thing that people ask me the most is, oh my God, Lisa, how are you so confident? So putting together the fact that people ask me this and I don't feel confident most of the time, I was like, I think I need to talk about this. And I think this is actually what the book needs to be about, because people think that I'm confident, but they don't hear the voice in my head. Now, the voice in my head is telling me I'm no good, I'm not enough, right? We just spoke about that with you. And so when I think about why people think I'm confident, it's because I don't let it stop me. Yeah. I don't let the negative voice in my head that you can't do it, who the hell do you think you are, stop me. And I call that radical confidence, because it's not about feeling great about starting. It's about having radical confidence, which means that you just have to start, even if you feel the fear, you feel the insecurity, you know that you're actually not necessarily great at it yet, but you still do it anyway. And so that's kind of why I was like, I really need to call this radical confidence, because I think we're doing a disservice by telling people, yes, I'm confident and that's how I've achieved everything. It's the fact that I just show up every day, even when I'm scared shitless, I still show up. So yeah, that's really where we started.
And you're so right, because there are two groups of people. The first group go, oh no, I'm too scared. And the second, I'm scared, but fuck it, I'm going to do it anyway. So we all have fear, but we have a choice. Shall I give up? Or shall I feel the fear and just keep going? And I love the fact you said you have that little voice in your head. And I love the fact that you use swear words, because when I'm with clients, I say, listen, you got to say to the voice, oi, shut the fuck up. It's great therapy, shut the fuck up. What the fuck do you know? And people say, oh, you swore. But you see, I find swearing, I love the word fuck. It's a maximizer, it's a minimizer, it's an insult, it's a compliment, it's an amplifier. You can put it in front of words and make them better. It's a great extension. I particularly love that you had a title which is called Toughen the Fuck Up. I'm so, normally I can't say, oh, you can't swear, but I love it that your whole book is full of profanities, but they're great words. So tell me first about toughen the fuck up, because sometimes we have to give people these very simple expressions. Yeah. Tell the voice to fuck off. Say, well, fuck you, I'm going to do it anyway. So let's talk about a middle chapter.
I love that. Toughen
the fuck up. Yeah. Because I think you had to do that.
It's funny because, it's toughen the fuck up, buttercup. Yeah. And so that's the sweetness at the end, because you're right. I love harsh language because I use it as an amplifier, as a way of embodying something. So when I really want to put emphasis, right, it's like body language matters. How you hold your voice and the tone you use matters. So throwing an F-bomb really does impact me emotionally, impact me. It's not even about the other person. And then it's just toughening up, because going back to I have a negative voice that from childhood was telling me, I was bullied at school I had a big nose. I had one of those head braces that wrapped all the way around the head. I was teased. I had a really long really long Greek name. So it was like Shagalampos. It was actually Charalambos, but the kids tease you. So I felt very insecure. I was put in like a special class for the way that I held my pencil. So it was like they forced me to like hold it in this weird way. And so I was just thought of myself as being dumb, ugly, stupid. And as I got older, I started to realize I was embodying that belief. And when I started to, when I was thrust into quest, so when my husband first came home and he's like, I've got this idea of a business. I'd been a stay-at-home wife, supported wife for 8 years. So I was like, okay, babe, yeah, absolutely, let's do it. I'll help him, I'm the good Greek wife. And then Quest happened and it grew at 57,000%. So that looks like just shipping bars from your living room floor one day. And then within 2 years, I've got a facility of 10,000 square feet, 40 people. And a lot of those people in my production department and shipping department were ex-convicts. So we start, we open, we grow so quickly. I'm like, fine, I'll just see what I can do. Yes, I can handle it. And each stage, it was like, well, you've just got to learn. You've got to learn. And if I didn't learn, we would have lost the house. So that was where I was like, okay, I don't feel tough, but I just got to keep going. Yeah. So we get a facility. We finally get one that is big enough that we get it in Compton. And so we don't care about where you come from. It really is who you going to show up to be today and who do you want to become tomorrow. And no matter what your background is, whether you're an ex-convict, we don't care. And so we had incredible humans that we were working together. But here I am, 5'1", never been a boss before, apart from my 2 little doggies, shipping from my living room floor, never knowing what it was like to be an entrepreneur, thrust into a business that was just growing so quickly. And now I have an entire department where if we don't ship bars out, if it crumbles, you know, no, we don't get the money. So it was like, okay, I have to be tough. And I was working with guys who are 6'5" and they've got teardrop tattoos under their eyes. You think I'm joking, but they actually do.
And I know what that means,
yeah.
too.
But it wasn't, I wasn't scared, but I was like, I can never let them even intimidate me or show them, even if they do intimidate me, I can't show them that. And so in those moments, I had to say to myself, what am I trying to achieve? And how do I show up every day? And it was, I didn't know how to be a boss. Okay, well, you can't let that stop you. You have to toughen up. You have to learn. Now, if I get confronted where it's just like a disagreement, I can't show weakness. I have to show that as a leader, you have to be freaking strong. People turn to you.
Of course.
So I had to, over time, go, I've got an option. Without judgment, I've got an option. Say this is hard and stop because it's too tough. And that's okay. I actually gave myself the permission to say, don't judge yourself if you no longer want to do this because it's just too hard. It's a life you don't want. Or you better fucking toughen the fuck up, buttercup, and learn and show up every day knowing that you can learn, you can get better, you will fail. And so that's where that kind of phrase came from. And so it just became like this motivation of how you show up every day is up to you. Doesn't mean the results is up to you, right? You've said many times, you can't control other people, you can't control a lot of situations, but by golly, I can control that I showed up.
Yeah, and just showing up is so important because it's like you take the first step and then you take the second, and often you think, I don't know what I'm doing here, but I'll show up. And it just works out. People say, how do you know? I don't know what I'm doing, but I know that if I turn up and walk on stage or do what I'm doing, it will all work out. I saw an example of radical confidence last week because I was looking at you on Instagram and someone had bullied you.
Oh, yeah.
Very mean. And I saw how elegantly you came back, and what you did was you put the post up for everyone to see and said, look at this. And I thought that was lovely. I really believe in that because nobody wakes up and goes, oh, my life's amazing. I think I'll just go and bully that Lisa Bilyeu today. My life is so great. I'm going to go and troll someone now. And I think it's really important to call out these people who sit at home trying to hurt us. We know that hurt people, but I want to ask you, what made you do that?
Oh, thank you.
Because I loved that. I thought it was such, for every girl who's being bullied at school, bullied at home, bullied by their partner, I loved what you did. You didn't go, oh, you don't like me. You went, what a shame. You're unhappy. Let me highlight what you're doing. So tell me, although it's not about the book, but it is about the book because it's a strategy for dealing with bullies, which we get a lot. So tell me why you did that.
Yeah, thank you. Once upon a time, as that little girl, I was the one that was crying in the, going home and crying. I never wanted a bully to see me upset because I knew that that was more ammo. So I was that person that like they would pick on me. I wouldn't show any, I wouldn't cry in front of them. I wouldn't push back, but I would go home and cry and feel badly about myself. And over time, over these years, I've realized that you can't control other people, but you can control how you respond to people. And so hurt people. And so if someone is hurting me, I don't want to reciprocate that. And it's for my own sake. It's for my own sanity. It's for my own mindset. I don't want to put that out. I don't want to feel hatred towards somebody. And so when I felt it, as a grown-up, I just said, I'm not going to let someone bully me anymore. We all talk about decisions that we just make and choices we make. And I just made a decision. If anyone tries to bully me, I am going to show them they can't, but not in an aggressive way and not in a backlash way. Yeah. Because I think that also shows insecurity.
But it shows you've let it in.
Yes.
If you cry or retaliate, you've let it in. If you say, let me show everyone what you said and let's deal with that, you haven't let it in, you're giving it straight back.
Exactly. And so I think that there's moments where, to be honest, part of me was trying to get through to her. I was trying to say, what is your goal here? If your goal, and this is what I said in the video, if your goal here is to come in and try and show negativity, you've achieved that. If your goal is, if your North Star is to have peace of mind, you're going the wrong direction. Of course. And so to just highlight the behavior, to not hide behind that behavior, and to just lay out, these are the only situations I can see has evolved from this. You're either trying to bring me down because there's something that you need to overcome, which now I can only show you compassion, or you're trying to actually bring me down because you have hatred inside you. And I can't do anything with that. So it's like, unfollow me. So we were just talking about Ricky Gervais. So he does this whole freaking stand-up, which I loved. And I literally said, the next time someone bullies me, I'm going to say this. So Ricky Gervais says, back in the day before phones were around, right? Let's say you're walking down the street and you enter the town center and you see one of those little bulletins that says, guitar lessons for sale. And he's like, you pull those little things. And he's like, you wouldn't go up to that advertisement that says guitar lessons for sale, pull the thing, run home, call them. It's like, but I don't want guitar lessons. It was so funny because he's right. You don't go to someone else's house and tell them what you don't want. No. Just don't go to their house.
Exactly.
And so for me, in those moments, I was like, I get people get triggered by things. And I'm never going to intentionally try to trigger someone. But if I'm a trigger, please unfollow me for your own sake.
Yeah, for your own sake. Which is very clever because maybe you didn't know what you did, but you didn't let it in. Part of confidence is you can choose. I don't have to let it in. I can, but I cannot. And when you hand it back, it's like trying to serve you a paper. If you don't take it, you haven't been served. So you very cleverly didn't let it in. And I hope you've talked about that in your book because it's a great gift to say, you can dislike me, you can hate me. I don't have to let it in. So I thought that was exquisitely skillful, which is why I remember it. I love the way you actually were trying to help her. What's going on? What do you need? If this is a trigger, unfollow. You don't keep doing, I hate that food, let me keep eating it. That gives me a headache, so I'll eat some more of it. You stop.
I actually also did that out of my own insecurity of trying to get people to like me. I just accepted not everyone's going to like you. And so when it comes to you, you're like, this is, not everyone likes you and it's not a big deal. It's not about you. It's not about your worth.
But does it matter? You can't worry about people who don't like you, to focus on the ones that do. Which brings me to probably my favorite chapter, Validation is for Parking. I thought that was so clever. I love one-liners and words that make you think twice or three times. So share with us the chapter, Validation is for Parking.
Yeah, it really is about like worth and where you get your validation from. And I think, at least for me, I was brought up in a very traditional Greek family. So I subtly over the years was dripped on that my validation would come from supporting my husband and being a stay-at-home wife and having children. It was told from every single angle. As a kid, my grandmother would come running if I was crying, fall on the floor, scrape my knee, and she'd come over and in her big, thick Greek accent, she'd be like, oh, you'll be okay by the time you get married. Like everything was, your life's going to be perfect and everything's going to be okay. Like your life is worth getting to the point of marriage. So I realized it was part of that got me stuck in a life for 8 years where I was staying at home supporting my husband, and I didn't speak up to say what I wanted in life because I was getting validation out of being a good Greek wife, a good Greek daughter. And I think a lot of people hold to that because that's where they get their pride or their self-worth. And I noticed that transition from being the housewife to then I started at Quest, we started to build it. And then I started to build the validation of being someone that can build a great department. And the department then, I realized, got me stuck again because now I wasn't progressing. I wasn't following my heart. I wasn't following the joy or the love or the passion that I had for life. All I was following was, people are giving me the accolades. I'm getting all these pats on the back that I built this department. Well, what if I leave? What if I try something new? What if I now don't get the pats on the back? Now, where am I going to get my validation and my worth from? And it became this whole thing of having to look at where you get your validation from, looking at your identity. I think we all hold to our own identity of, I'm the person that people can turn to, right? So now if you're really busy, well, now maybe I'm not the person people can turn to. What does that mean about me? Am I going to be less worthy towards them? So I had to really you talk about peel the onion, right? I had to peel the onion to really say, where do I get my validation from? Why do I believe that? And now how can I take ownership over it? Then now I'm getting my validation in the pursuit of something. And so I started to reframe the way that I would see things. I get my worth in the pursuit that I'm the person that goes after the thing that pulls my heartstrings. And now I've just changed the framing, changed the way that I see it so that I'm not always chasing something, that I'm going towards passion and desire, and the validation and my identity is built along the way.
And of course, you created Women of Impact, and every woman you have on there is a tough woman, a strong woman, a role model. So obviously that's helped. But what about the next chapter, which I love, which is make your negative voice your bitch and your best friend forever. Tell me how you made your negative voice your bitch and indeed your best friend forever. And why would you make your negative voice your best friend forever?
Oh God, I just love you saying the title, to be honest. So going to the negative voice again, very mean, very cruel, and you listen to you read Instagram posts, you listen to quotes, you listen to, you read books, and a lot of the messaging out there at the time was love yourself, just love yourself. Be kind to yourself. And here was the thing. I tried. I honestly tried and I couldn't. So I was like, okay. I started to feel bad about myself that I couldn't now be nice to myself. So instead of trying to do better, I was actually feeling worse about myself because everyone was telling me I should be nice. I was trying to be nice and the negative voice was still there and still cruel. So I was like, okay, this strategy doesn't work. And so I'm so goal-oriented that I go, what's the goal? And then how do I get there? And so the goal was to progress, to be better, to not let my negative voice stand in my way. So right now, my strategy in trying to be nice and trying to love myself is actually deterring me from my goal. So what can I do? And I was like, how the hell do I turn this into a positive? Because right now I cannot ignore it. So the only other option I have is to turn this into a positive. So I was like, okay, instead of being the bitch in my head, what if she was the friendly BFF bitch in my head? And so what does that mean? What do friends do? Friends tell you the hard truths, but they're still kind. They still love you. But true friends will still be honest with you.
Yeah, of course.
So I was like, what if that's what my negative voice is? What if this bitch in my head is now my BFF? And instead of trying this whole time to push her out, to push her away, to slam the door, to tell her to shut up, what if I was just like, come on in, put my arm around her, give her a Tetley tea, give her a blanket and say, all right, friend, what are you trying to warn me?
Yeah.
And in that, in stepping in front of the camera, that was the biggest thing. It was like I was behind the scenes at Quest, I was behind the scenes at Impact Theory, I helped build my husband's show, like I helped build the company. And I started to step in front of the camera because people were saying they wanted to hear more from me. And as soon as I did, I was beating myself up. Who the hell do you think you are? You're terrible in front of the camera. My first interview, it was like, oh my God, what was I doing? Lisa, you don't belong in front of the camera. You think you're good, but it proved that you weren't. You got in front and you totally bombed. Now there's that part of me that was like, don't ever get in front of the camera again. You're terrible. You're gonna get teased. People are gonna make fun of you. Why would you ever do that? And instead, I was like, BFF, come here. What are you trying to tell me? And what I realized, once I started to stop trying to block it out, she was saying, you're no good. So I was like, great, what am I no good at? You're no good at intros. Okay, how do I get better? You have to practice. How do I practice? And so now I started to ask her questions. Lisa, you're no good at outros. Great, friend. Thank you for letting me know I'm no good at outros. What can I do differently? You better freaking prepare. Amazing, I'm gonna prepare. Now you've seen, I've got like 8 boards around me so that I've used that negative voice, I've used the advice, and I've heard her. And now I go, if that is true, how do I show up and mitigate that from happening again? And so I just started to listen to it. And now I literally, every time that mean voice, so I said at the beginning where the mean voice came in, I was like, Lisa, you don't have to write a book. It's true. I don't know how to write a book. Why the hell would I enter that and go, I got this shit down pat? That's bullshit. Let's face it, I've never written a book before. So to expect me to have this incredible confidence to be like, I can write a book is false, but I can have the radical confidence to learn. And that was where the 2 comes in, with the radical confidence, with not knowing how to do something, and say, learn along the way. And at least at the end, if I've learned how to and it tanks, I did the best I could. And I'm gonna learn my lesson and I'm gonna come back. But I'm not gonna freaking let that negative voice stop me from trying to write the book in the first place.
See, what you did was very clever, because what you did, you made that voice go from destructive criticism to constructive criticism. Destructive is you're rubbish. Constructive is, Lisa, you're leaving it to the last minute. You're rushing in there. You're not prepared. And so when you turn the voice, it's still a critic, but it can be destructive or it can be constructive. You might from it, darling, I love you, but you know, you never get here on time. I'm always waiting for you. I don't think, oh yeah, that's really upset my friend. I better try harder. So it's great advice for everyone. If you can have a critic in your head, just make sure it's a constructive critic and not a destructive. When you say, hey, what are you trying to tell me? You're trying to tell me I could get better, I could learn. Most people, when we hear criticism, think, oh, well, you said that, well, you did that too. And someone might say, you know, you're annoying. You're annoying. I found that as a parent. You're very naughty, so are you. You think, oh, okay, that's not working. I need to find a better way to dialogue with my child. But it was very, very clever, because you made it sound so easy, so simple. You used yourself. But what you actually did was you took the critical voice, it's not going to go away. But instead of making it destructive, I can make it constructive, and I can learn. What are you trying to tell me? What are you saying? What's the message here? What can I learn? How can I grow? And I thought that was so clever. And you think with clever people is, they don't actually know they're even clever. People like you that write often don't really realize the exquisite skill. I think with Women of Impact, you probably don't even know how powerful it is. You know, one of my friends who's head of a network said, people who are good make it look so easy. And then everyone said, I can do that too, but they can't. As I said before, very few people can actually get a book, take it to market, and make it sell. But I want to go on to your next chapter, because I love the title even more. Get off the couch and put your bad bitch boots on.
Yeah, buddy.
So clever, because it's like, I think, oh, I want to know what that is. You know, when you go to it, oh, that looks good. I got to order that. It's so enticing. Aww. I think you're very clever. You have a gift for making each chapter what we call a page turner. This is a page turner. It's a book. I got to turn the page and see, what does that mean? Get off the couch and put your bad bitch boots on. So tell me about bad bitch boots and why we should put them on.
I fucking love you, Amy. Thank you. Coming from you, that is a huge compliment and honor. So I just want to say thank you for that. everything that I talk about is literally the things that I've done, because I don't think of myself as necessarily being the expert. And I'm just like, even if I read things and I listen to things, what are the things I'm actually going to do in order to get out of my own head? And motivation is a big thing. It's like, how do you stay motivated? How do you believe in yourself? And how do you show up every day when you feel like total crap? You feel like a bag of nerves, but yet I still show up. So first of all, so with radical confidence, it's people always like, I want confidence. Like, let's say a speaking gig, right? You speak on stage. And in fact, the first time I ever saw you, I was way behind the scenes, never been on stage before, never did a show. And I saw you speaking on stage and I was like, oh my God, the confidence. I was like, she just like, it's like coming out of your pores. But now I don't know if you've always been confident on stage, and I don't know if you are, but I look at you and go, that's confidence. So you take it in and you go, I want that. And so you think that your internal has to mirror the external of what you see other people, but it's not true.
No.
So I go, okay, she's on stage. Well, do you want to get on stage? Yes or no? That is the end goal, not the confidence to get on stage. So when people say to me, Lisa, I want the confidence, the very first thing actually I say to them is, what do you want the confidence in? Because you think that you want confidence and your life's going to be great, but actually you never just stop at confidence. Everyone wants confidence to do something. You want confidence to step on stage. You want confidence to tell your husband you're no longer happy in your marriage. You want confidence to tell your boss you think you deserve a pay rise. You want confidence to tell your parents, I don't want to study this anymore. But you don't just want confidence in and of itself. So back to the get off the couch and put your bad bitch boots on. I got offered a speaking gig, TEDx. Never been on stage before in my life, ever. And so I said yes, and then I just was scared shitless. And I was like, who the hell do I think I am? You know, the imposter syndrome comes in, the negative voice comes back and everything. And it's like, how do I get myself motivated? And how do I have the confidence enough to get up and actually do it? So I was like, what are the tools I can use to do it? Because I can't get out of my own head. So first of all, I was like, what are the things that I can embody to give me the confidence to just do it in the first place? So my hair is just like my hair, my jewelry, and my clothes is like me suiting up. It's like putting on my cape. It gives me the confidence. My bad bitch boots, I put them on, I zip them up. Like even just hearing now, the sound of the zip, I've cultivated the power of the zip pulling, of the putting on the boots, and it becomes now my power tool. And so I want people to go, what is that power tool? It's never going to come naturally. You have to try some things. So it could be a top. It can be your hat, right? You even said, like, every time I see you, I love your hats that you wear. And so I almost, in my head, I think of your bad bitch boots version is your hat. Maybe it's not, but we all have that thing.
Yeah.
And we have to learn to see what that is.
And that's so true, because if you get up in the morning and put on a power suit, if I put on a suit and heels, I feel like a businesswoman. Then when I put on my leggings and I'm going paddle boarding, I feel like I'm exercising. And if I put on a little negligee, I might feel like I'm hanging out with my husband. So we do actually dress the part. But describe the bad bitch boots. I imagine them a bit like Dr. Martens. What are they like?
No, they're literally knee-high boots, very tight, black, leather. The heel is clunky because I feel sexy. And here's actually the nuance. I feel sexy in thin heels. Like your heels right now are so fucking sexy, homie. They are so sexy. So if I'm going on a date or if I want to like have like a bit of suave to me, I'll put on something like that. But if I want to feel confident, the heel must be thicker. Yeah. Because when I walk, it gives my posture a certain thing. It has like a beat to it. Music. Literally, when I talk about a hype song, like what is that song that you can listen to that, you know, like WrestleMania? Like what would you put like your leotard on and go on like WrestleMania and be like, I've got this? Like think about as you're going through that tunnel, what you would want people to chant, what you'd want that song to be. Because before I got on the TEDx stage, I put on my bad bitch boots, I put on Superwoman underwear. No one else saw it. No one saw it.
You felt it.
But I felt it. Because the nerves, I had to pee like 30 times before going on stage. Obviously, I didn't actually pee.
But it's the adrenaline.
Yeah. So what am I doing? I'm subtly reminding myself as I look at my Superwoman knickers. I'm like, all right, you're a superwoman. I've actually got Batgirl on today, but I wear Wonder Woman necklace because when I look in the mirror, right beneath my eyes is a logo.
Of course.
And this logo, over time, represents to me personal power. So I do these little things in order so I can freaking get on stage in the first place and not freeze.
And what's the song you go on stage to?
That's I'm a Survivor.
Important. Oh, I love that. I used to go on stage to Let's Get It Started by the Black Eyed Peas because it says, I want to do this. And I find that songs really talk to you. Let's do it. Let's get it started.
Yeah.
This girl is on fire, titanium. Because it's the same thing it is the bad bitch boots, the big girl pants. We're saying, I'm ready. You're not stopping me. And I think even the metaphor of putting on, it's like putting on the Superman outfit, putting on the Catwoman, and off you go. And even if it's just a metaphor, it's so clever because it's saying, get ready, here I come. That song, I'm going to get ready because here I come. Yeah. And you're mentally getting yourself ready. And many athletes do that. They have a lucky letter they stick in their sock. Many tennis players do that. I work with a lot of athletes who have a little something. And the bad bitch boots is the metaphor for don't fuck with me. Yeah. Here I am. I've got something to say. And even if you don't like it, I like it. So I love that. And I think it's so clever because I think there's so many young girls who can think, well, what are my bad bitch boots? As you say, could it be my hair? Could it be a hat? Could it be a jacket? Could it be zipping up my leather trousers or pulling on my leggings or putting my shoulder bag there or even picking up my pen and my notes and going on stage or going into that meeting because you've mentally prepared you, but you've given yourself that little something. And I think if you have something and a song, I always believe that we've got to sing our own song. And I love that song, I'm a Survivor, because some of us think, oh, I'm dying, I'll never find love again, don't leave me, I can't live without you. No, sing, I'm a survivor, I'm going to make it. Because those words, so you're empowering yourself twice with a song and with the bad bitch boots. I love that.
Thank you. And I literally, like, before I went on stage, I just put my, my AirPods in my ear and went into the restroom and I'm like, kind of like shadow boxing, like in the toilets. Like, and it's just like, and I'm actually probably, to you, this sounds normal, but like, I have the power to change the chemicals in my body.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
And how am I going to do that? Do I listen to sad music and make myself feel shitty and tell myself that I'm no, like you put on like your unflattering things, the things that don't make you feel good? Or am I going to go, okay, I recognize I don't feel confident, but I don't need confidence to go on stage. I just need the radical confidence. How the hell do I get radical confidence? Let me try a bunch of stuff and see what fits for me and what music fits for me.
Yeah, and I think for women, when you're going into the bedroom, if you think, God, I'm the sexiest, hottest thing on the planet, the guy you with will think that too.
Yes.
Don't wait for them to tell you. You tell them, you're so lucky to be with me. I'm so sexy. I'm so hot. You think, really? Yes, really. Because don't wait for someone else to fill you up with those words. Do it yourself.
Or we do the opposite, right?
Yeah.
We like self-deprecate. So it's like, like if you're going to, make sweet, sweet love with your partner, it's just like, but ignore my thighs, and so you try, and it's like, that actually is the opposite of sexy and confident.
We say, I'm so sorry, I'm a bit heavy here, I've gained weight. Never apologize. One of the things about Kate Moss is, she has this motto, never complain and never explain, never justify. And I think that's a great motto. Don't ever say, oh, yes, I've got big feet, or, oh, I don't look my best, I've gained 10 pounds. Don't ever do that. Don't ever diminish who you are. If anything, big up yourself, because confidence is really sexy. The bad bitch boots. Just the sentence is sexy, and it's putting an image in your head, which is very sexy. I love the fact they're laced right up to the knee, but I also find Dr. Martens on girls very sexy, even little short dresses, because it's like, I might have a short dress on, but don't you mess with me. I can run in these, I can kick you in these. I've got power, and I love that.
you.
So now my fourth favorite chapter, Get Unpissed.
Yeah.
So clever. But it's so clever because it's like having a little appetizer going, I want more now. You've given me one little bit of candy. I need the whole packet. Tell us about Get Unpissed.
Yeah, it's get unpissed and gain emotional sobriety. So emotional sobriety, actually my husband coined the phrase, and I just loved it because it was such a beautiful metaphor for, you know, everyone, you know, you've had a drink, you've had a cocktail, you get giggly, and then you have a little too many, and you wake up the next day and you're like, oh God, I shouldn't have said that. Oh my God, I can't believe I did that. How many people have had that on emotions where you've got so mad at someone and the next day or that night you start beating yourself up and you're like, I wish I hadn't said it. I wish I didn't do that, because it becomes like this, like, at least for me, if I get like hot-headed, I'm just like a little blind and it's like, that wasn't me. Like, who the hell was that? And so when I think about like emotions, it's the same thing. So how do you become emotionally sober? Because how many moments have you been in a situation where you're like, I would have handled that differently if I wasn't upset, if I wasn't, you know, annoyed, if I wasn't triggered, all these things. And as I started to go into business, so in fact, business and my relationship with my husband, both those two things, I'm like, if I come into a situation where I cannot articulate my emotions, it's not about not feeling your emotions, but it's about just not being able to articulate them, saying things that you're going to regret. So how in those moments that I'm feeling overwhelmed with emotion, where maybe I'm upset, I'm pissed, I'm embarrassed, I'm ashamed, right? All the emotions that we feel, how do I make sure that in this situation with my relationship or in business, that I'm able to articulate things, that I'm able to have a very neutral conversation, that I'm able to have a discussion without getting emotional? Because when someone becomes extremely emotional, sometimes as well, you start to dismiss their point. And now, even if you've got a valid point, because you're saying it with emotion, people dismiss you. So I realized, oh, well, hang on, also, that doesn't serve my goal. So now I look at business. I'm not the sort of person that wanted to cry in a meeting. I just don't, that's not how I want to show up every day. I want to be able to take problems. I want to be able to take issues and have an articulate discussion with somebody and work through it to come out the other end. The second I brought my emotion into it, it wasn't possible. So I said, okay, it's not about not feeling your emotions, but it's about not bringing them to the table. So in certain situations, how on earth do you handle it unemotionally? What are the things and tools you can do in order to sober up, you know, emotionally, and then have that discussion? So A, it's about identifying your own behaviors. So for me, I get very hot-headed. And so I'm like, I have to walk away. And again, going to, I can't trust my emotions. I just need a listicle, or if it's like a beat by beat of actually tell me what to do. Okay, so I walk away. But what do you do when you walk away? That also matters. Do you phone that friend and that you're like, I can't believe this happened? They're like, yeah, you go and tell them, right? What you do when you walk away is either fueling your emotion or helping you get emotionally sober, which is like the coffee, right? So I go, who is my coffee? Not who is going to have another shot of the fireball that is going to keep me where I am. So what does the coffee element look like? It is either speaking to somebody that you can trust that is going to be honest with you. It's the music. Do you go and listen to sad music? Because in those moments where you're feeling emotionally overwhelmed, do you feed into it? Now, sometimes you may want to. And I also go, cool, right now, Lisa, you need to actually just lick your wound. And you need to say all the horrible things that you're saying in your head to yourself. I can't fucking believe it. Why me? Like, just give yourself permission to do it. But freaking put a timer on it. And you better get the fuck up after that and move on. So emotionally, I accept where I am. I go, what are the tools I can do to either walk away or make sure that I don't let this emotion run wild? And then what do I do and say when I come back to the situation in order to handle it with the grace that I wish I did from the start? So I kind of like walk in that chapter, really walk people through the different possibilities of getting emotionally, you know, drunk, and the different types of situations that you can be in, from anger to shame to emotion. And there is a story in there that I share that I've never said to anyone in my, oh God, I don't want it. You're like the first one. Oh God, I'm even embarrassed to say it out loud. Isn't that interesting? I've written it in the book.
Oh, you don't have to say it if you don't want to.
No, it's actually interesting. And look, I can even notice my nervous behaviors. That's fascinating. So because I said to myself, I was so ashamed, so embarrassed. And I was like, I'm never, like, bury this in the desert, Lisa. Don't ever, like, pretend this never happened. And of course, we all know that when we pretend something never happened, it starts to chip away at you. And so in the moment that it happened, I said to myself, this is the most shameful I've ever felt in my life. And right now, Lisa, this will be a haunting moment for you that you'll never be able to shake. Or in this very moment that you feel your deepest shame and embarrassment, you have to shift your mindset because it is now your choice to have this hang over you for the rest of your life or to pivot. And in the moment of the most embarrassing shame I've ever felt, in that moment I said, I will one day use this for good. And what does that mean? It means right now, Lisa, you need to sober the fuck up emotionally and realize this isn't the end of the world. And you need to right in this moment, realize this doesn't dictate who you are. And this doesn't dictate who you can become. And this doesn't dictate this doesn't dictate who you are. And telling myself that in that moment, I said, one day I will share this story. I don't know when, I don't know how, and I don't know why, but one day I will. And that thought in the freaking moment empowered me so much that like that, I was able to overcome the shame and I ended up having a wonderful evening with my husband. But it's still hard for me to talk about. But when I wrote the book, I was like, this is why I need people to understand what radical confidence is. Because I can still turn around from this. I can still turn around from the most shame, embarrassment I've ever had in my life that I've never told anyone. I told my husband and my sister, and then I freaking wrote it in the book. But the point being is that no matter how much you may feel it, you can come from it, even in that freaking moment. And I'm actually even nervous to say it because I've never said it out loud before.
Well, you don't have to say it. But I think what you're telling us in itself is interesting too, because, you know, you're allowed to make a mistake. In the Bible, it says to err is human, to forgive is divine. I've always thought to err is human, but God, it feels divine. And I prefer that. So you're allowed to make a mistake. I always remember years ago, I was on holiday with my best friend, and she fainted. And as she fainted, she wet herself, and she was so upset. I wasn't upset. I helped her to the room. I took off her clothes. I washed them. I wasn't embarrassed. She was mortified. I'm like, look, it's okay. You fainted. Even the thing is, you faint, you lose control of usually your bowels because your body wants to get rid of everything in you. So you've got less heavy stuff, so you can run. That's why if you fire over a deer, it will lose control too because it needs to flee, and our body wants to get rid of everything and panic. But she was so embarrassed. Nobody else was. It's like coming out of a restaurant with your dress tucked into your knickers. Nobody else is really embarrassed. You are. And I think we have to give ourselves a break. We have to say to err is human, to forgive is divine. You are allowed to make a mistake. In fact, you're meant to make a mistake. How can you learn? Napoleon said a man who never made a mistake, he never made anything. Because if you don't make a mistake, how can you learn? So you're allowed to make a mistake, but you are not allowed to beat yourself up, to make yourself sick because you made a mistake. So when you're sharing your mistake, now we're all dying to get the book to find out the story.
I literally was, the part of me was actually like, I need to be radically confident right now and just tell you.
Well, you can tell me if you want to.
Yeah, I do.
I do. You see, I have that effect on people. They tell me everything. So tell me.
The funny thing is, yeah, and like as you were talking, I was like, Lisa, what the fuck are you doing? Like you literally wrote a book about it and you can't shy away from it. And actually you just gave me the great like pivot to share it because, so I've had a lot of health issues. I go on a wonderful date for my husband. We haven't eaten out for like 4 years, 5 years because of my gut issues. We finally decided to eat out. It's our anniversary from like our 18 year from our first date. It was, you know, he books like the most beautiful restaurant. It's cut at the Beverly Wilshire Hotel. I mean, if anyone knows Hollywood, that's like, you know, the place to be. And so he was so sweet, and my husband, he's not pretentious at all, like never ever, but he was the first time he used his name, and he's like, I want to get the perfect table. I'm going to tell them all your health issues, babe. I'm going to tell them all the ingredients. You never have to worry. I mean, it was like, I was so excited, and I put on my bad bitch boots, and I got my sexy shorts on, and we go like to this dinner, and I was so excited, and we sit down, and like my stomach's starting to like make really like upset noises because I've had such bad gut issues. So I was like, it's really hurting. I was like, babe, I gotta give me a minute. I gotta go to the restroom. And he's like, of course. So I get up and I go, and I'm like, what the fuck are the toilets? What the fuck are the toilets? And the waiter, I'm like, dude, where's the fucking toilets? And he's like, oh, we don't have our own. You have to go into the lobby because restaurants, apparently they're in hotels, don't have their own restrooms. So I'm like, fuck. So I'm like, all right, cool, calm and collectively. So you're in the bloody 5-star hotel, like walk, but walk fast. I'm walking, fuck, where the hell is the toilet? Oh shit, oh crap. And I didn't make it. And in the Beverly Wilshire Hotel, in fucking shorts, I don't need to say the rest.
You don't.
And I literally was like fucking stumbling into the restroom, didn't make it. I'm in shorts. I don't have my phone on me because I jumped out of the table, and I don't have a sweater on. I've got a tank top on. What the fuck do I do? I was mortified, embarrassed. The first time I got dressed up in so long, I hadn't felt so sexy in a long time. I thought I was finally over it. I had the identity that I'd got through it. I'm this, sexy. I'm going to have this awesome, beautiful, romantic night with my husband. I built a fucking $1 billion company, and I fucking shit myself in the toilet of the Beverly Wilshire Hotel. I'm never going to tell anyone this story. I'm going to hide. I'm going to, what can I do? What are the things I can do just to make it back to Tom and get the fuck out of here? And I'm going to pretend this never happened.
What did you do in that moment?
I was like, all right, Lisa, you have to leave the bloody restroom. Like, you ain't got a choice.
Mm. And so you're in the restroom by then?
Yeah, literally. So I'm like stumbling in the fucking restroom. And so I was like, clean yourself up as much as you can. Get back to Tom as quickly as you possibly can. So I literally did as much as I could, ran to him. I was like, get the fucking check. Like, I was like, get up, we're leaving. And because he'd never seen me like that, he was like, what the fuck has just happened? He's like, of course. So I was like, give me your jacket. So I wrapped his jacket around my waist. I can't talk. I'm so upset. I'm crestfallen. And he's like, babe, what's up? I couldn't talk. We get in the car. I still can't talk. And it's our anniversary. I've been looking forward to this. And he's like, what can I do? And in that, I'm like in tears. I burn. And I'm not much of a crier. There's a whole other past of like why I'm not much of a crier. I'm in tears. I'm uncontrollable. And that was the moment where I was like, Lisa, you talk about mindset. You talk about your health being the best thing that's ever happened to you because now you can take ownership and you can improve. Right now, you're feeling sorry for yourself. Right now, you want to pretend this never happened. You're going to fucking talk the talk and walk the walk. Who do you want to be, Lisa? I literally was saying this. Who do you want to be? And in this moment, do you want to be the person that hides from mistakes, or do you actually want to be the person that says you can always own up to your mistakes because, not mistakes, but like whatever's happening and learn from them? And in that moment, I was like, hang on a minute. Why did I come out for dinner in the first place? To have a magical night with my husband. It's only 7 p.m. and I've ridden the whole night off. And I'm like, right now, in this fucking moment is when I'm going to decide how this event replays in my head. And that's when I was like, it's got to be the most empowering moment of my life. Otherwise,
of course.
So I was like, how do I make this the most empowering moment? I was like, I need to be able to flip this immediately. But I don't feel like I want to flip it, right? The embarrassment, the shame, it's all there. So how the hell do I do it? And I'm like, all right, I need to remind myself of what tonight is about. It's about me and my husband. It is not about, well, yes, we were hoping to have some fun in the evening. It was about being with him. All right. So how do I reframe this evening? I have to reframe it of, I still got time with my husband.
Yeah.
And so I was like, right, now I have to put a plan in place. All right, babe, we're going to go home. And literally I was like, all right, babe, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go home. I'm going to shower. I was like, we're going to put on our matching PJs. I was like, you're going to get your snacks. I'm going to get my bone broth. And we're going to put on the most romantic movie that we can think of. And we're going to lie in bed and we're going to hug. And he's like, I love that, babe. And that's exactly what we did. And in those moments, it reminded me of what was important. It reminded me again for the 10th millionth time that my husband has my back. And it reminded me of what is important in life.
Yeah.
It is being with each other and having a healthy mindset. Because I couldn't control my body and the weakness that I had in my body, but I could control how I responded to it.
Yeah. I love that. So what
I'm like, thank you.
But
I'm nervous.
That's the basis of friendship. If you didn't know, the basis of friendship is we choose people who share our vulnerabilities. And it's a bit like when you go to AA and stand up and say, hey, I sold all my kids' toys. As I did it too, you think, oh, I feel so much better. You sold your kids Barbies. I thought I was the only asshole in the world that sold their kids Barbies to get money for alcohol. And now I feel better. And when you share your worst moment, one of my dear friends went to jail for drugs. He's now good. He tells all his clients, hey, I was in prison for having too much cocaine. They thought I was a dealer. And he doesn't hide anything. I love that you can be totally honest about, I've worked with clients who say, I don't know. Oh, I slept with so many people. I have no idea who the father of my child is, but who cares? And I love that they don't hide it. And actually, I worked with someone who came in for fear of flying. And she said, well, I was terrified of flying. So I went on one of these BA things. You get on the plane at Heathrow, they do a little tour and you come out, and I had on shorts. They said, would you like to go in with the pilot? She said, I actually lost control of my bowels in the cockpit of the plane. The pilot put on a mask and I had to walk down the plane with it all running down my legs. I mean, they didn't even give me didn't have anything like a tablecloth. So I got back in my seat, everyone was looking at me. And it was just awful. But then I thought, well, hey, if I can survive that, it didn't cure the flying fear, obviously, just to come to me. But if I can survive that, I can survive anything. And sometimes our worst, most embarrassing moments, you think, but I survived it. Yeah. Something awful in front of people. The most intimate thing happened, but it's okay. It's rather like, people who've had sex tapes. They go, well, watch it all if you want to. If you want to see me having sex, go ahead. It's always better when you can say, yep, the worst thing happened, but I'm still here. And I didn't give it the power to hurt me. That talk you were at, I remember my heels kept falling through the stage. It was the weirdest thing. And as I was speaking, they were just going, and I thought, okay, I'm going to have to stand completely still because that wasn't the plan. I'm going to get on stage and my heels are going to fall through it. So I had to stand completely still. But these things make us prepared. You think, well, the worst that could happen has happened in the Beverly Wilshire Hotel. What else can happen that's bad? And you showed a vulnerability in sharing that hugely. But in sharing your vulnerability, you gave everyone permission to share theirs. And that's actually an extraordinary gift that you probably, again, don't even know you have. You think, wow, Lisa can talk about that on air. So I can talk about things. I remember years ago being in a tennis match and I sat on my boyfriend's knee. And I got up and I'd bled all over him. And he was playing at tennis on his tennis watch. I didn't even know how to period. And it was like, oh my God, I mean, could this be more embarrassing? But he didn't really mind. He said, don't worry, we'll rinse everything off, and drying his shorts under the hairdryer. And it's like, I mean, that was in front of everybody. But you just got to think, well, I wouldn't wish that on anyone. But the person that cares the most isn't the audience. Go, oh my God, poor you. They feel bad for you. They don't think it's disgusting because they think, well, that could have happened to me. We feel the shame and the blame and the guilt. But when we can just share it, I sat on my boyfriend's knee at a tennis tournament in his whites and I bled all over him. And then I got up and went, oh. I was actually doing a yoga class and the trainer was leaning over and that happened to her. She was bleeding all through her leotard and I had no idea. And she carried on the whole class. And I'm sure afterwards she was just horrible. I thought, oh, gosh, that's a reminder. Never do yoga in a white leotard when you know it's the day before your period. Make sure you wear black. Don't do that when it could be that day. You can only learn from these things. So I love the chapter, be the hero of your own life, because actually you've just done that. It's very heroic to come on and say, this is what happened to me. It was the worst thing you can imagine. But for everyone else, it probably isn't the worst thing. You think it is. So tell me more about, give the audience here, especially younger women, some advice. How can they become the hero of their own life?
Yeah, I love that. don't wait for someone else to come and rescue you. That was the biggest thing for me. For someone, I've been with my husband for almost 20 years. We grew up together. I was 21 years old when I met him. And so along the way, you know, especially because I was a stay-at-home wife for 8 years, and it was like we had a very, you know, old school traditional marriage. And so I would literally just look to him to give me the life that I felt like I wanted, or the emotions. So it was like, I would stay home all day. I'd get really bored and, you know, try and find things to fill my day. And then he would come home and I was like, all right, how's your day? What are you doing? Right. And it was like, give me the life that I, like the outside life. Or it was just, you know, like, well, now my husband's home, I can start having fun. And it wasn't him, it was all me. It was me turning to him to give me the life that I thought I wanted. And it wasn't there was one very powerful day for me that shifted this mindset completely. And it was during very severe gut issues again. It was like really early on. And I didn't go out anywhere because I just wasn't sure what would happen. And I was in the middle of a photo shoot. And I've got this photo shoot, they're taking photos of me, I'm doing this thing. And then all of a sudden, oh God, my stomach. So I'm like, excuse me, I'll be back in a second, right? So I excuse myself. I go upstairs and I fall to the floor with such excruciating stomach cramps. So I could barely breathe. I was like, and I was holding my side, and the photo shoot is everyone's waiting for me. And I get my phone and I'm texting Tom because he's in another room in a meeting. And I'm texting him, I was like, I need you. No answer. Now we have a rule in the Bilyeu household that if we text each other once, you can ignore it. If we text each other twice, you can ignore it. Or sorry, if we call each other once, you can ignore it. If you call each other twice, you can ignore it. If you call each other the third time, it means whatever the hell you're doing.
Stop.
If you, like, literally, you're interviewing the president, oh, sorry, I got a dash, like my wife's calling me 3 times. That's just the rule that we have. So I call once, doesn't answer. I'm like, I need him. Call him twice, doesn't answer. I call him a third time, he doesn't freaking answer. And literally this whole time is like, I need him to help me get up. And by that third time, because I always turn to him, I was like, well, what the fuck do I do now? And in that moment, I was like, I don't need him. I want him, but I don't need him. Lisa, get the fuck up. Be your own hero. Stop fucking waiting. Sorry for swearing, but like that's the aggression, right?
But I want you, but I don't need you. I wrote about that in my book. I miss you, but I don't need you. It's like that. I need you. No, I think I need you. I miss you, but I don't need you, because needing is very needy, and that was probably very good for you because it made you do it yourself.
1000%.
DIY.
Yeah, and then that idea then started to infiltrate in the most beautiful way every area of my life. So with my health, I was going to doctors. The doctor's going to fix me, right? The doctor's going to give me a pill. It's somebody else. I need someone else to fix me. I need someone else to get me up off the floor. And with the doctors, with my health, for over a year, I kept going to doctors. I need you to fix me. I need this. And eventually when I realized that my own digestive issues were all my own doing. It was 10, 20 years of having a very poor mindset about food, not looking at food in a healthy way, being very controlling, getting sick, taking too much antibiotics. Once I realized, it was me that did this to myself. It was the most wonderful.
Yeah, because if you did it, you can fix it. That's the magic. Is if I created it, if my mind is powerful enough to give me a symptom, then oh boy, it's powerful enough to get rid of it too.
Yeah. And so at that moment was then that flip of, oh, I was waiting for the doctor to give me a pill. Actually, if it's all with my own doing, and if I am my own hero, I have to save myself. Yeah. What does saving myself look like? Take responsibility. What does that look like? All right, Lisa, when you eat this, how does it feel? When you do this, how does it feel? Because I would listen to the doctors. The doctors would give me, let's say, dietary this is what you need to eat. Even though my gut and my mind was like, that's like, you know, when you have that like spidey senses, was like, that doesn't feel right. I would ignore my gut issue. I would ignore my gut, literally, and be like, all right, well, the doctor told me, the doctor must know better than I do. So I was always even giving over my power to someone else and not listening to myself. And you talk about the power of thought. Yeah. What is that doing to me on every aspect where I'm giving over my own health to someone else and ignoring what my gut is telling me? I should be listening to.
And you know, that's so important, because when I used to tell my little daughter fairy stories, I noticed that the princess was always saved, Rapunzel was saved. And so when the end and Snow White was kissed by the handsome prince, I'd always change the ending to the, well, so I said, actually, I want to be an artist. I'm going to do my own thing, thanks. And I would sometimes change I'm going to be an artist. Thanks for offering to whisk me away to your castle, but I don't want to live in a castle. I like shopping and hanging out with my girlfriend. So I would always change the ending a bit. Oh, thank you so much, Prince Charming. And actually, she just made a T-shirt, and it says, "This princess saves herself."
Yeah.
And I notice now that when she's with her little sister from a different mum, same dad, she's also doing the same thing. They don't have, and the poor Snow White was all on her own, and then the handsome prince came along and kissed her and made her better. It's like the handsome prince goes, "Hey, I've got it myself. You know, I'm great. I'm Miss Independence.
Yeah.
I'm living here with the 7 dwarfs. I've got 7 guys here. I don't need you." And it was always very important to change the narrative of girls being saved and then living happily ever after. Like, what is that anyway? Because you don't get married and live happily ever after. And often I love that song, Miss Independence. That's why I love it. I've got it. You know, we like that. We don't want to hear about, oh, rescue me. I can't be without you. So that was probably a great gift for you that Tom didn't answer the phone. You were thinking, I need him. You think, actually, I don't need him. I've got this. You know, when little children, let me say, I can do it. I can do it myself. I can do it myself. When they're little, I can put my coat on. I can feed myself. And then we keep doing it for them. And it's such a bad move for girls to have this belief that you're going to be saved. Saved from what? Saved from yourself? Yourself is fantastic. You don't really want to save you. And I know myself that my husband, I mean, he's so techie, but it's almost disabling, because it's like, well, he'll do all of that. And I have to say, don't keep doing it for me, because now I have no idea. I went to visit a client once who said, I'm so sorry, I can't make any tea. My maid isn't here. I don't know how to make tea. Oh. What do you mean? I don't know how to boil a kettle. And I see that with a lot of my very wealthy clients, they're utterly disabled because they can't do anything for themselves. And when you can say, I can do it all by myself, it's a great thing.
Do you find this actually, because like with Tom, there's this like fine line where it's like, oh, I know I can do it, but I still want him to do it. And over the years of going, no, I'm fully capable, but I still want him to do it, I'm actually very comfortable in doing it. I'm not necessarily that person that was like, I need to do it all myself. So for instance, like a couple of months ago, I was having it was one of those work days, right, where it's like, you just got things flying at you left, right, and center, and you got all this stuff, and it's like, it was just go, 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 and I could feel myself really hard, and it's like, and by the end of the day, I was just like, I needed to eat, but I know that my gut issues, I should never eat when I'm that stressed or that wound up. And so I was like, you know what? I really want a hug from my husband. And it wasn't that I could have done other things. And it wasn't like, I was like, I want it.
Yeah, but wanting it is different to needing it. Yeah.
And so, but knowing the difference and kind of, it allowed me to, like, I still want to be able to rely on my husband. I still want him to be able to rely on me. But so there is that difference and that nuance between. Yeah.
But it's different. Like if my husband said to me one day, he said, darling, you never have to speak to a contractor again in your whole life. I'm like, oh my God, that's like foreplay. Right. I don't have to speak to I do it. And I'm like, oh my God, that's like foreplay. You do that. But I could speak to the contractors. I could deal with them. Yeah. But he goes out there and does this tough guy, and it's better than me, but I could do it. So, but the nuance is, I could do all of this, but I want you to do it because I like to feel cared for. I said to my husband one day, you know, when you go to bed at night, I really like to lock all the doors because I feel cared for. Yeah. I can lock all the doors myself. Yeah. I did it for years as a single woman. I set the alarm, but I like him to do it because I feel protected. And he loves to do it because I didn't say, you know, you just go to bed and leave all the doors open. I said, I feel protected when you do that for me. I'm not incapable. But I think in a relationship, whatever your sexuality is, it's very important to say, hey, I could get into bed with a little toy and please myself all night long. But I like you to do it because I feel connected and bonded. And so the difference is small, but it's important. I could do it. But I feel so good. It's like you could cook dinner, but you want to go to a hotel and have the waiter serve you. You could get out a sewing machine and make your own clothes, but why would you? I could do my own gardening and washing and everything, but I don't really want to. But I know if I had to, I can do all of that. And when you can do it yourself, it's very empowering. So I'm going to ask you one more question, because I don't want to run out of time before I ask you my second question, which is really important. But tell me about betting on yourself.
Yeah, I just think, I mean, growing up Greek Orthodox and kind of settling into a life that I didn't want. I had like I wanted to be a movie director. Like I had like all these dreams, and I found myself being in a situation that I wasn't making me happy. And so I was looking at, you know, the life that I had. I love my husband more than life. It's like literally I would give up burn the business to the ground because I'm not conflicted on what my priorities are. My husband is my number one. Even though he's my number one, I knew that I have to rely on myself.
You have to be your number one.
I have to, yeah.
Put your own mask on first.
Yes, exactly. And so when Tom was just miserable, he was just chasing money, I was supporting him at home, neither of us were happy. Like literally we're like, okay, we're going to go down this path. We're going to live this life. We're going to make enough money so we can make movies. 8 years later, we're still not making movies. He's now just chasing money. I'm, you know, staying at home, kind of almost like giving up on my dreams and my goals. And we were just living a life that we weren't happy with. And so I eventually said to him, babe, like, we choose this life. And so do we really want this life? Like we didn't, you know, we can't just keep perpetually going with emotion. And so what life do we actually want? And I said, I need my husband back. I don't give a shit about money. I don't give a shit about this house. I just need my husband back. And so that's my North Star. How the hell are we going to get? I need you back. I need your personality back.
Connection.
Yeah, we need the connection. So we said, okay, let's just roll the dice, right? Like all these things that we thought were, well, you buy the house and you pay the mortgage and you do this and you do that. And it's like, we came on this path and we got married and we came to America and we were going to make movies. And it's like, well, who the freaking is who's writing your script?
Yeah, write your own script.
Write your own script.
Write your own
like,
script.
roll the freaking dice and just bet on yourself. And it doesn't mean you're always going to win or your hand's going to, you know.
Because you've got to take a breath and think, why am I doing this? Yeah. It's like people who say, I've got a baby and I'm going to work to get the money. When my little girl, one day I was writing a book, I said, baby, I'm writing this. She goes, but mummy, I don't want you to write. I just want my mummy to spend time there. And I thought, yeah, she's right. You know, I'm writing a book so she can go to private school and we can have great holidays. But she just wants me to be present with her. That's all children ever want. And really be present with me. With your partner, put your phone down, be present with me. And we're so busy chasing the dream to have the house, to have the car, to have the status. And we forget that what we want is to be present with people that we love. And you're right, bet on yourself, but take a minute and say, you know, what makes my heart sing? Why am I doing this? I'm doing all of this. You know, my husband was telling me a year ago what we could do with our business. I said, but we're just doing that to make so much, to leave it to our kids. And is that going to do them any good at all? Probably not. They don't need all of that wealth. You've got to really think, why am I doing this? What am I doing it for? So I love that, bet on yourself. But I love the song. You reminded me of something. Now, I was in London and I was teaching my school and I love teaching. And I suddenly got a phone call to say that my mother was really ill. She'd been burgled. It was a terrible thing. And she'd got rushed to hospital. And I'd never actually left my school. But I said, well, I just leave the school. So I just got in the car and I drove. And my sister was also running my school. We both went to my mother's bedside. And actually the school was fine. And amazingly, she died that night. It was terribly sad. And the next day I was thinking, oh my God, how am I going to teach my school? But I remember singing this song by ABBA, Super Trooper, The Show Must Go On. And I would sing that song in my head over and over again, Super Trooper, Super Trooper. And I remember walking to the door and thinking, okay, sing the song, get yourself together. And I would sing the song and go in. And now I still play that song because I really believe that radical confidence comes from what's the message in your head? For me, it was you're a super trooper. Your mum doesn't want you singing on them. What's the point of crying? You can cry when you go home. You can cry every night, but you can't cry. These people have flown from all over the world to be taught by you. And you've got to stand up and put your big girl pants on or your big bitch boots. You've got to stand up and teach. They've come from Australia and New Zealand. And so that was my radical confidence, super trooper. The show must go on. Just put on your big girl pants and do it. So I think you've spun a wonderful story for your audience with all these exciting titles and messages, and you're so authentic and so willing to share your deepest vulnerability because it makes you stronger. But I got to ask you one more question, because I know, how do you write a book? You know, I started by saying, I think it's 18% of people ever get to, I think 90% of people want to write a book, 18% actually get it done, but they do not get it published. And then how do you get it to sell? It's a whole process. So, and I've taken a lot of your time, but tell me how you personally sat down and wrote a book.
Yeah, thank you. It's one of these, because I spent 8 years of my life doing something that didn't make me happy. It didn't fulfill me. I swore that I would never do something again for someone else if it didn't fill my heart up.
Didn't make your heart sing.
It didn't, yeah. So when I was approached to write a book, I just had to ask myself, is this something that's interesting? And will it make my heart sing? And is it part of my North Star? Because I'm so, again, goal-oriented. So I go, okay, reminder, what is that goal? For me, it really is to impact a 14-year-old girl so that she never has to live.
That's your audience.
20 years unwiring the negative mindset that I've had to do.
Yeah, I love that.
That's my North Star. Everything I do is in line with my North
So when you
Star.
were sitting down to write, were you thinking about those 14-year-old girls and your message?
When I was sitting down to write it, well, so that was the, like, okay, that was the yes. So I had over here, at least you have no idea how to write a book. Who the hell's going to buy a book from you? What if you don't sell any copies? All the negative thoughts over here. And then I remembered what I do, what makes my heart sing, to impact a 14-year-old. So I just go, which one's more important? Which one outweighs the other? With no judgment.
Yeah.
Because let me tell you, if I said to myself, you know what, writing a book scares me so much, it's not the life that I want. I don't want to live the next year of my life in anxiety, in not knowing what I'm doing. There's no judgment there. Like, I literally gave myself the permission to be like, you have every right to live the life you want, Lisa. And if not writing a book is the life you want, then don't write it. So I processed it and I said, okay, I have no idea what I'm doing. What if I don't sell any books over here? And then over here, how powerful is affecting the 14-year-old girl? Is that more powerful than the fear of writing a book? I was like, fuck yes, it's more powerful than the fear of writing a book. So that was a decision to write it. Then the next thing was phone people you know that write books and ask, what am I in for? So I do my research now. It basically was, it'll be an entire year of your life. The rest of your business is going to go to the wayside. You need to think ahead. And then you need to think about planning. You need to think about what that goal is, who you're marketing to. So I literally would write all these notes about, like, okay, this is the process. And I was like, okay, now how do I approach it in a schedule? Because of my health, I have to protect my health.
Of course.
So it was establishing what the next year is going to look like. And then talking to my team and having my team saying, okay, guys, this is how much I'm going to be available through the first 3 months. This is where I'm going to be available for this time. I'm not going to be available for 2 months, so you're going to have to be on your own. And then really laying out my schedule. So that's all very logistical because I've got the logistic brain in me. Then it was to sit down and write it. I had an incredible ghostwriter. So she just helped guide me into the knowledge of writing a book. And then I was like, this is what is important for me to say. And then it's the stepping stones. So it was like, this is my life. This is where I started. This is how I ended. And the most amazing thing about writing the book was it was the most therapeutic thing I've ever done.
I thought you'd say that because I know when I write, I think writing is like drawing a picture. People say, well, I've got to start at the beginning, finish at the end. You can start in the middle. You can start anywhere. When you draw a picture, you often start with a little tree, then you do a house, and then it all fills itself in. And I think if you want to write, you can start anywhere because the book will take on a life of its own. I'm currently writing a new book about why nature wants you to binge on sugar, why it wants you to be fat, why it's not your fault. And the day I woke up, I thought, you know what? I had an idea at 6 a.m. I'll just get up and write a chapter. And it only took me 90 minutes because it was in my head. I just put it down on paper. And I think to write, you just write what's in your heart at the moment. Just write. Don't keep going back and changing and editing it. I know so many writers who say, I've rewritten this book 20 times. It's such a mistake. Just write what you feel. You can dump some of it later. And my agent said it's called bum on seat. Actually, it's in America here. Butt on seat. Just sit down. JFD, just freaking do it. Yeah. Because when you have a message in you and you begin to write, it will take on a shape of its own. And, you know, when I first wrote, it was like, wow, this is like having a lover. I can't wait to get up to it. I can't wait to come home to it. I'd go, oh, I think I'll pop out and meet my editor. And then I don't, oh no, I come home and think, I just do half an hour. I'll be writing all night long. And people said, I bet you're thrilled when it was finished. I'm like, you know what? I really miss it, actually. I was so engrossed and it gave me so much back that now I've finished my book. I miss it, so I better do another one. And I have a feeling you'll be doing one a year because there's certainly more than one book in you. You've got such a great message.
Thank you.
And I think all those 14-year-old girls are very lucky to have you as a role model.
Oh, thank you. Alicia, come from you. That's
well, it's true. You're a great role model because you're a woman of impact. And often it's the people we least expect that have a message, and so powerful.
It's funny you said that because, like, I literally was like, what message do I have? Like, literally, I was like, I don't know what I would write a book about. And it wasn't until that's where the therapy almost came in, because it was like, well, okay, you went from here to here, but how did you do it? And I was like, well, what, you just fucking figure it out. I said, well, how did you? So in having to replay things and literally go beat by beat by beat, where it's like, but you were really like, oh my God, I was shitting myself, but I still did it. How I was really fearful over here, but I still did that. Like, what? What on earth? Why did I do it? Like, I was petrified.
But it's like that great message by Marion Williamson. Who are you not? You don't never say, who am I?
Yeah.
You say, who am I not?
Yeah.
Well, what do you gain by hiding yourself away? You know, shine your light. If you think you're too bright, they just have to wear sunglasses. So thank you, Lisa. You've been such an inspiration. I'm so glad you have Women of Impact because you're definitely one of them. And the time should, I know I've taken a lot of your time. It's flown by. But where can we find your book?
Yes, go to radicalconfidence.com, and then there's a bunch of bonuses over there as well. You get some free classes from me, downloadable PDF workbook. It's going to be a lot of fun, but yeah, radicalconfidence.com.
But it's in bookstores too,
it's everywhere, yeah. Go to Amazon, Target is having
Isn't
it.
That exciting?
Barnes & Noble. It's weird. Girl, it's weird. I'm like just having a blast. I'm like the little kid in the candy shop. I was like, oh my God, Target! Like,
you're loving
in
it.
Target. I literally would go to Target when I was living the life that I was like, what am I doing with my life? And I would walk around Target because it was the most joy I could get, because who doesn't freaking love Target? But to now be in Target is a little surreal to me.
Isn't that funny? You might be on the side of buses soon, too.
Oh, God, that would be weird.
Yeah, well, maybe not. Maybe it would be deserved. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure and a joy. Check out my next video here.
If people actually knew this shame that I have, no one would ever love me, no one would ever accept me, no one would ever want to hang out with me, be my friend, they would outcast me. That was the internal conversation, if they knew this shame and insecurity of mine. And so I think that's why I held on to it for 25